YouTube, what's going on? We're back with some more of the first Descendant. Got Viessa out, rocking her Absolute Zero build. So this is her updated mobbing build. I've got two of them here for you. I've got a DPS and a tanking build. Showcase them in the VEP Stage 5, as well as the Supermassive Receptor. All time stamped in there. Again, the Ancestor modules are overpowered. It allows to do different things with the builds. Absolutely love it. Everything's time stamped in there, so you can flip flop to whatever you need to. Hopefully it helps. If it does, please feel free to turn on those notifications, sub to the channel, drop a like. Alright, this is my Viessa Absolute Zero mobbing build. I have two of them. I have one that I push for time, so high damage, and the other one is just a really tanky build that I like to use when I'm just messing around out in the Axiom plains, or I just need the just the survivability. Don't want to worry about dying. So there's two builds to go over. And we'll showcase the VEP Stage 5, as well as the Supermassive Conductor Infiltration run as a showcase for each one of the builds. So we'll start off with the Supermassive Conductor build, the Infiltration one, the new dungeon that just came out. This is the build that I use. This is my tanky build. Obviously it does hit. It's got some skill power, but it's got a lot of defense and hit points. As you can see, we're running at 140,000 plus, almost 141,000 defense with about 8,000 HP. So really cushy. You can just you push whatever you feel like pushing. When it comes to the fellow, we run this with the MP fellow, which is the snowy sled dog, just because you get the automatic 45-second recovery, MP recovery every 45 seconds. And I just want to go over Absolute Zero. I do go over it in another vid. But again, when you run Absolute Zero as defined here, the Ice Shackle is not inflicted. But again, when you land critical hits, it inflicts frostbite on the target, dealing like damage over time effect on your ice roads, which is super powerful. And again, Viessa is a critical hit, critical rate respectfully into those to be able to get that to apply almost all the time. So that's what that does when you apply it. Not only does it do that, it changes all of your skills to singular, as you can see there. And if I go into another Transcendent module real quick, you'll see that they vary from fusion to tech. That's another thing that Absolute Zero does. It uniforms everything under singular, which makes it very nice to take advantage of, if you wanted to swap out focus on chill for focus on singular for whatever reason, or your spear and shield for focus on singular to get that more cooldown, which is nice. It's a viable option. You can take advantage of that singular across all of your skills. Another thing to note with Absolute Zero, as you can see, there's a skill power of 1,176.5, and again, the skill power for each one of them, as you can see, was 278, 3,800, 1,800. When you run the Absolute Zero mod, this is what makes it unique than all the other mods. It has that, it's like a passive skill power bump. So these same skills, again, 930, 944, 1176. It doesn't matter which one I go to, the Cold Blood or whatever it may be, depending on what the skill is. Again, 3876, 3813. So there's a slight downgrade on that one. And again, continuous power, 1800 on the skill power, and 1702. So just note that when you're running the Absolute Zero, that it uniforms all your skills under singular, and you do get a bump on the skill power, at least on your 4, your 1, and obviously you're taking you're applying damage now with your Frost Road with the Absolute Zero, so you're gaining damage with that as well. Just something to note real quick when it comes to the Absolute Zero build. So again, we've gone over our fellow, just a little bit of the mechanics that Absolute Zero provides. You run this with the Frozen Singularity Reactor. I have this with skill critical hit damage, skill critical hit rate. Again, I went over why it's a singular reactor. All of our skills benefit from that. All of our skills are chill. For this build, I like to run this with a 2-piece Polar and a 2-piece Enlightened Mage. Again, at least we get the 6% chill power and a base 6% on the skill power with the Enlightened Mage. Again, the middle Enlightened Mage run with HP and defense, and you can get the Polar Knight to run with max HP on the rolls for the processor and the auxiliary power. All of the skills, the coring, run with max HP and defense for each one of the cores. And what we want as much as possible is MP recovery, defense, any type of gains that you can get for MP recovery modifier would be, prioritized. Defense, max HP, any type of elemental resist are also very nice as well. This is what I like to run again for my, just and when I'm out in the Axiom Plains infiltration missions, just for the cushiness of it all. Arche tuning path. I like to run this with the mutant setup. I do have a crit setup as well. Probably give that a little bit of a try. Then you get a little bit better clear times, just better power with the mutant setup. But a crit setup is also viable as well for the build. Obviously, that's what Viessa is a crit Descendant. So I'll just have them displayed. I did run these runs that I did, the showcase runs that I did do, were with this mutant setup. Inversion reinforcements. So I like to run this with the survival. So when I get hit, I'm just getting additional attribute resistance for survivability. Every 45 seconds, that couples well with the fellow. We're getting a percentage chance of gaining MP back. And I like this with the cooldown. I feel like I get more out of the cooldown than I do out of the skill cost. I feel like the man is there for me right now, but you could swap the skill cooldown out for skill cost if you wanted to. I like the skill cooldown so I can, get my skills back as quickly as possible, even though there's a little bit of a 15-second delay between this being able to proc every time it goes off. But those are my inversion reinforcements that I am running. Descendant modules. So really what changed from this is we sacrificed range. So we used to run this with skill expansion and the amplification control. Swapped out amplification control, took the range away, and added in spear and shield for the extra defense and skill power. And then we also took out MP collector. MP collector was helping us just constantly regenerate the mana. Again, it wasn't really like helping or helping damage output for the build, so we're going with damage output. The mobs are there. The mana doesn't seem to be an issue with it. And again, we're just trying to max this out as much as we possibly can. So again, this is a really chunky build with some fairly decent skill power to really do the job. So as you can see, we've got the Hunter's Resolution with the defense, chill power for chill power boost to give us that damage, and max shield. So we've got 2 survivability and 1 power up, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, I've been kind of stockpiling just to see what I can roll out of them. I will show this in my other build. I run the damage. I do have one that's really nicely kitted for defense, so this really just jacks up my survivability, as well as giving me the extra skill power and damage that just wasn't there before. And I don't feel like I'm suffering too much on the range, so it's really your call. Again, that spear and shield that you see here, I did have amplification control in for it, and we just took out the MP collector so we could run the Hunter's Resolution. Tons of different options I feel that you could run with this. There's skill amplification that you can run the focus on singularity for more cooldown, and then again the singularity is all here. Again, I went full survivability, but I mean tons of different scenarios that you can play around with in the build here. Trigger module, just the standard power beyond, again taking advantage of our ground dot and our blizzard damage with that, so we're able to scale it and get that up to a max of 15% skill damage and increase our skill effect range. So that is the build. the crux of the new modules are what changed within it. Again, other than that, as you can see, absolute zero, mid-air maneuvering, you want that for the module capacity. Don't really care which one of those you run. It's really your preference, as is was pretty much all of this. It's just more of a guide or kind of help, give substance to whatever you're trying to accomplish with your build, right? So we've got our focus on chill. Again, that helps us with some chill skill power, which is nice again to bump that up with Hunter's Resolution, gives a little bit of cooldown. And we've got our MP conversion for more cooldown with our nimble fingers combo. The Spear and Shield, again, we've got some defense, swap that out. We've got some survivability with the skill power, and then it comes down to our range. It's our only range modifier mod that we have on there. Then you've got the big four, which is front lines, emergency measures, skill insight, skill concentration for all the crit hit rate and critical hit damage. And again, Hunter's Resolution. I mean, these things are randomly whatever you get. The God roll, I'm not gonna cut it. It is a little bit closer to that. You'd want it with skill critical hit damage, skill critical hit rate. In my eyes, I'd probably want it with a survivability, like a defense or something like that. But I mean, if you can get chill or singular with skill critical hit damage and skill critical hit rate on one of these things, insane. Purple and above would be ridiculous. But if you can get at least skill critical hit damage, skill critical hit rate, and then get some type of survivability or to supplement some range, I feel like those are all, viable options for the Ancestor module. So for the weapon, we like to run the Frost Watcher, and again, Viessa doesn't really use her weapon, out on the battlefield. She's constantly spamming skills. But when you do get a time, especially when you're fighting the bosses at the end or the bigger, chunkier bosses, I'm starting to get the feel for this weapon, and it seems to be really adding some extra damage to the bosses. I was running the Clairvoyance. I'm now running the Frost Watcher, and again, on landing critical hit, it procs Cold Surveillance, and the Cold Surveillance, once you land that critical hit, it's 100%. Trigger rate on it. We hit a weak point and we were able to trigger Sub-Zero Sensation at a 30% rate. So it doesn't really proc all the time, so you just gotta kind of use it for the bossing side of things, and that's what I've been using it for. And yeah, it seems to do well. I don't know if it's it's got the extra chill skill power there, which puts it over and above, I feel, the Clairvoyance, which I was using prior to this. So again, you get that critical hit rate. We're able to proc this at 100%. You just got to be at 12.5 meters or more away at a 7-second duration. We get 3 stacks of chill resistance applied to the enemy, base 10, and then a 5% stackable onto those 3 stacks. So very nice with that. And again, once we get a critical hit, if we're able to land the weak point, hopefully we can get this to proc with a 30% chance. Again, you got to be at least that distance away. Lasts for 7 seconds, but you get the 32% additional chill skill power. So that is absolutely bananas, if you ask me. Great weapon. Again, I'm just getting the feel for how to use it against bosses and whatnot. But that's why you run it, because of those two unique abilities, the Cold Surveillance and the Sub-Zero Sensation. So when it comes to the mods, again, I'm just kind of working on it. Again, you can see I've got my weak points all in there. I'll probably put some Have Aiming, and then we'll get some skill critical hit rate in there. Again, I'm not too worried about the damage. I just got to make sure that we can get our skill critical hit rate up there. Probably get a couple of chills, maybe some fire rate, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not too sure about the fire rate. Again, with Viessa, we're not really firing the weapon, so we're just trying to get the abilities to proc with the critical hits. Critical hit rate is what we want to spec into, and then being able to hit the weak points. I have the weak point damage, but we want to be able to at least generate them as much as possible. So that's why we're just specking into both weak point and the critical hit rate, which will be my next module up. So for the Void Erosion Purge Stage 5. This is a straight damage build, so what we do, or what I do with that build, is I swap these external components out for the 4-piece Slayer set. Again, taking advantage of MP recovery modifiers, you know, shield, any type of defense, any type of MP recovery modifier is great. And elemental, you know, resistance, again, MP recoveries are good, but why we have this obviously is for the raw 26.1% skill power. That's why we do it. There is some nice synergies with the power beyond applying Toad, and then the external components also being able to apply Toad and giving us some specialized, you know, giving us MP recovery at a you know, a very low chance. But we're after it for just strictly the skill power. No change to the Singularity Reactor. No change to our Arche tuning path. We're still running it with our Mutant cell path. Inversion reinforcement. No changes to that. And for the Descendant modules, this is where I make a quick swap out. So again, I don't need the... I'm not going for survivability. Survivability, these were our two mods that we, you know, brought in to change the build. So now I'm just gonna go spec into the full damage builds. With my Hunter's Resolution. And there you have it. And then that's what I run for my full damage build. So it's when it comes to swapping these modules around, again, we swapped out all of the defense, skill critical hit damage, skill critical hit rate, chill skill power, boost, singular boost, or some type of defense up there, or range would help compensate for that. The power beyond the base, but as you can see, it has tow in there as well. So again, we're able to inflict tow, recover stuff, and this is also synergizing well with the 4-piece Slayer set. Yeah, we've got the two of the focus on singular, focus on chill, to give us more cooldown, again, more power within the build. Not a lot of survivability in here, but that's not what we're aiming for. We're aiming to try and clear it as fast as we possibly can and try to net more gains off this as possible, as much as possible. I'd have to burn another node, but again, you could probably swap out focus on chill if you wanted more power for power increase. That's another gain. I'm not too sure if that would net you more time, but there is, again, gains to be made, better Ancestor modules to be had. There are gains to be done with this build, but this is the power build that I have within it. There's not a lot of survivability in here, but it netted me at least currently my best time for VEP Stage 5. But as you can see, our survivability is just completely dropped. We went from 140 thou to 30, and we went from 8 down to basically 4. And no change to the fire, the Frost Watcher. So there's both the builds. We'll get into the showcase. Obviously, we'll keep updating these as we continue to get gains or better modules, a better role in the Ancestor modules, or beat some times out. But right now, this is the best I've got. I hope it helps you. Enjoy. What is this? What is the fuck is going on? This game just feels chalk sometimes.